Welcome everybody, my name is Paul and today I'm going to address the customers and prospects to whom I serve about what I actually do to help you sell your property, because it's a complex process and there's a lot of paperwork involved. And the first step is for me to understand what exactly I'm trying to sell for you, because as you know, we don't get paid until we sell it, but beyond the pay is really a very satisfying feeling to bring two people together or parties together and make a transaction happen where there's a great sense of relief on the people selling and the people of joy. They're moving into a place and maybe it's an investment for them. So it's a really wonderful thing to participate in. And I want people to understand what I actually do, because when I come to your home, I want to look at your property. I want to find out as much as I can about it. So what I do is I take a lot of notes here. I give you a few samples here, one of the properties I've been working on. I have a seller checklist here, a bunch of questions about the condition. Have you made any improvements in the property? When did you buy it? How long have you owned? The square footage? Oh boy, there's a lot of questions. What's your motivation? Where are you going to go? So that's one part of it. And then I do a lot of note taking when I take a phone call, for example, or if I'm in person, I just do a lot of handmade notes, and then later I sit back. I think to myself, okay, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to sell this property? Because on this side, for example, I put a bunch of things that are real positive. There's some bunch of positive in this particular property. It has two residences, and actually there's a downstairs apartment, and you can combine them or not, but you can. There's some rental space there. That's an advantage. So it has some drawbacks. There's a bathroom that needs some help and so on. So there's things that I make notes on. How long have you owned it? What do you need to get from it? In some cases, a person will say, well, I really need to clear, let's say it's $140,000. That means you got to clear it. Well, that means you got to charge a little more, or you got to price it in a range where it'll work. Now, in many cases, it does work. Some people say, look, I got to clear 140, I got that left on my mortgage, or whatever the reason. And let's say it's a $200,000 house, and they can sell it for 160 or whatever. If let's say it's a 160 house and they can sell it for 160 and they'll clear 140 easily. But there are cases where someone says, look, I really hope to clear a certain amount, but the market just, or the condition of the house just does not quite support that house or that price. So in that kind of case, you and me, the seller and me, have to have a conversation, because we might say, look, you can't get that in this market. Maybe wait for another time or something, or improve the property or clean up the yard or something. But for some reason, there are situations where the price that you want to get for your home is just not going to work. I mean, in that particular market. On the other hand, a sharp person, a seller, say, write down all the right things and make a nice description, take some pictures, say, look, we don't really try to deceive anybody when you market a property. You have to say very honestly, okay, well, the bathroom needs work. Well, that's pretty obvious when you walk in, for example. But let's say something that's not so common and you notice that there's some mold or something. Well, people are going to find that when you walk through. You don't necessarily put that picture of the mold in the ad for the property. Let them people discover it and they can figure it out and what they want to do. But if you have a really nice deck or a garden or a fence or something, you put that in the ad and the pictures, and you promote the best part of it. So that's part of the marketing job of a real estate professional. It's not just keeping track of all this paperwork. It's sort of strategizing and doing some financial calculation about what the market will hold. For example, in a property I was working on, I figured, okay, what kind of mortgage will support this? Okay, the guy wants to get 150. Will it support a 150 mortgage? Well, if you got rentals in there and you got X dollars for the top floor and X dollars for the bottom floor, you figure out a little cost of holding on to the tenants and the taxes and so on. You come out with say, well, the guy could he could have an $800 mortgage payment on 150,000 or something, and he's still got money to spare. He can have a few $100s of cash flow coming in and still manage that mortgage. So you got to be able to think like an investor sometimes, because that's sometimes the only kind of person who's going to buy a particular property, or the most likely or the best prospect. Now, in this particular case, there might be some people locally who want that house. Maybe somebody says, okay, that's great. I got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's 150,000. Or let's say we price it up, guy wants to clear it 150, so we price it to 165, and someone goes at 164. Now you got a deal, so they're happy, everybody's happy. So we have to strategize very carefully about the price. Now, it doesn't make sense to say, look, I'll charge the moon, and then whatever, after I'll knock it down if somebody asks me. But if you charge too much for a property and you put it on the listing, and then people say, well, they're just going to pass over it. They're not going to come and look at it because, oh, it's too high. I know that area, or whatever. Or I know the house next door, or something. So you have to kind of really be extremely realistic and honest. That's what a professional realtor does. They say, look, let's have a head-to-head conversation here. I'm going to try to get the sale here. Of course I am. I want to make sure you have a deal. But let's figure out what the best deal is for you and all concerned, because if you want to move the property fast, then okay, take a little discount, okay? You can price it a little over market if you want. Don't go too far over market, because typically when you add up all the statistics in real estate, it pretty much comes out to about 97, 95%, depends on the situation, the market, of what the average final sale price is. Because if this final sale price is always so much lower, like 80%, it means that people are pricing the property way too high. The same thing is if a property's on the market and it gets snapped up in 3 days, there's a good chance that you could have gotten some more money for that property if you just been willing to wait. But there are times when you don't want to wait. You see, sometimes a seller, if you're a seller and you want to move out really quickly, then think about that angle as well, because how long will it cost you to hold on to this property? You see, if you wait 6 months but it's cost you $1,000 a month to hold on to the property, well, maybe a $5,000 lower offer a few months earlier would seal the deal, because they say, look, I'll just save myself $6,000 and I'll take the $5,000 off the price, you see. So there's a lot of considerations, and that's what you have a heart-to-heart, basically head-to-head with the realtor. Say, look, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do. We make a kind of an agreement. That's what the seller agreement is all about. Say, I make a deal, you're hiring me, and now I'm committed to you. And basically, just like a job interview, as soon as someone says, I want you to list my house, here's the contract, okay, I work for you. You hired me, I'm doing your job. And I'm going to go back to my house and immediately start working on it. That's exactly what I do. So I hope this is informative and tells you a little bit about what I do. But I'll keep a little summary here. I typically will give my sellers a booklet that has, this is an empty one, but I'm starting to fill it up for a listing, and any kind of maps or documents. I make notes. If I get calls from somebody and then they're interested, and then months go by, sometimes a couple of months go by, and maybe a sale drops through, and you call them back and say, hey, you still interested in that house? Maybe they didn't find what they're looking for. And maybe by then that you've lowered the price a little bit. We can call back and tell people, like, hey, that house that you listed, that you were looking at some time ago, the seller is now willing to compromise a little bit on the price. Are you still interested? So that's another thing I might do. I follow up on people. Now, just a little bit of a summary here. One thing I also do is I will make a printout of a topographic area of the land or property that you're selling. And usually I print out multiple ones in different sizes. I had a 45-acre parcel last year that I had, a whole bunch of these topographic maps. And we analyzed the satellite photographs to see where the trees were, where the terrain was, and so on. So I have had experience in real estate for some years, and I also was an area photographer. I have a pilot license. I'm very familiar with topography. So when I look at a property, that's one of my interests. I like to see how it's kind of laid out and where the angles are, where the sun is in east. So that's a little specialty that I offer. So I also am very familiar with the internet. I have had being independent employment for a long time, and I've been using the internet for a long time, using my photography services and area photography services and just general marketing. So I'm very familiar with the internet, and I make videos of people's property. I take good pictures of people's property, and that's another thing I'll do. I'll wait for a good day, good sunlight, and we'll get some really great pictures of your property so we can expose it to the selling market. So I appreciate you listening. Please like and share, and if you have any questions, please contact me. My email address. I work for Lions Team Realty in Moneta, Virginia, And I live in Buchanan, beautiful, beautiful Shenandoah Valley. Thanks again for listening.